You can access the entire episode now on our website, forbiddenknowledge.news, Rokfin, Rumble, and all podcast platforms. You're right. There isn't that divine spark, and you can tell with a lot of this stuff, and I think that's what's going to ultimately prevent this AI takeover of our entertainment industry and what we understand as all the creative arts, because people don't want that. I mean, it doesn't touch them. It doesn't touch them in their heart. It doesn't pull at their heartstrings. It doesn't elicit the emotions that the divine spark in human creativity does, right?
Yeah, we've always said that, like the reptilian elites, they don't right, they're not creative. They lack creativity, and that's why they always repeat things. They only know how to pervert and steal ideas. And I've always said this, bro. If these elites, right now, let's say that, because there's two camps of me in my research of the occult. I think that there are these elites. Some of them could possibly be possessed by these higher entities, and they're doing their bidding. But then they're the ones that you kind of look at, you go, do they have some malicious intent by the things that they're inventing and by the things that they're bringing forth into this world? And maybe there's something subtly in the background influencing them. Could that be a thing where it's just they're existing but don't have that conscious knowledge of the occult? For example, or you have H.P. Lovecraft, which he said he wasn't an occultist. He said he wasn't in touch with anything, but maybe he was being contacted by something that he didn't know was a higher entity through his dreams, right? You have the first, we're going to be talking about technology today. You have the first Apple computer, $666.66.
Yeah.
They asked him why it was priced at that. He just said he liked the number. He liked repeating numbers.
Yeah.
Okay, sure, whatever. I mean, that's a weird number. We know that's right. They have the half-eaten apple on the back. Oh, it's the forbidden fruit, etc., etc. And then we have, I'm going to talk about Charles Babbage here, which is the father of the modern day computer, the father of the computer. Now, I'm going to read an excerpt from him when he was a young boy, a young lad. And this reminds me of Jack Parsons. I know I did a presentation on your show of Jack Parsons a while ago. And Jack Parsons, when he was a young boy, he tried summoning the devil at one point. And it was also on that show. I forgot the name of it, but something angel. I don't know if you know which one I'm talking about. The show of Jack Parsons that got canceled after a little bit.
No.
But this, I don't know, it's going to bug me, the name of that show. Anyways, this guy here, right, Charles Babbage, the father of the modern day computer, he was born in 1791, died 1871. He was an English polymath, mathematician, philosopher, inventor, and mechanical engineer. And he's considered by some to be the father of the computer. And his whole central question of his philosophy was whether there's evidence of deity from the apparent design in nature. So they want to prove the existence of God through design, essentially, right? We see these designs with the Fibonacci sequence and everything that we've always talked about in nature. Well, can you prove, is that proving the existence of God in some which way or another? Now, this guy was a genius, right? And as a little boy, he was believing in ghosts. And as a student, Babbage was also a member of the societies such as the Ghost Club, concerned with investigating supernatural phenomenon. And then he had this club, which I still don't know what it means, but called the Extractors Club. And he had like a little group of friends, he had a little posse. And the Extractors Club was dedicated to liberating its members from the madhouse, should any be committed to one. Which I found that weird. I'm like, what are you guys messing with, that you need to be extracted from a madhouse, right? And then it was like legally or illegally, any which way, like they were going to be pulled out of it. So as a little boy, he writes about this in his book, Passages from the Life of a Philosopher. This is chapter 2, where he's talking about his life and like just weird abstract ideas, which we'll get to here in a second. But he talked about wanting to, right, talk to the Prince of Darkness. And he talks about a story here where he's going around he was in the school for boys, and he was going around gathering different stories. So I carefully collected from the traditions of different boys the visible forms in which the Prince of Darkness had been recorded to have appeared. This is him as a little boy, and he's writing this after the fact as a grown man. And this is the father of the computer, okay, bro? So not just any regular guy, the father of the computer, which is a weird thing to be interested in, right?
Well, dude, think about how many occultists are intertwined with technology, and it's been that way since the dawning of a lot of our modern technology. It's been brought about by occultists.
Absolutely. I mean, Parsons is the perfect example. One of the more infamous occultists of all time, one of the more recognizable ones. And he was, right, the founder of JPL, and he was closely tied to NASA, right? What the dark side of NASA they don't really want you to know about, but there's a connection there.
Even if these modern Silicon Valley guys don't admit that outright that they're occultists, they dabble in some dark art shit.
Yes.
And if they don't think it's spiritual, they're trying to contact what they understand as like alien intelligences and shit, and they think it's more technological or science-based, but it's still an occult practice whether they realize it or not.
100%. And that's where I want to bring it full circle. So he talks about here the Prince of Darkness. Amongst them were a rabbit, an owl, a black cat, very frequently a raven, and then a man with cloven foot, also frequent. So he's thinking about it, and he goes on to say, as I only desired an interview with the gentleman in black simply to convince my senses of his existence, I declined adopting legal forms of a bond and preferred one more resembling that of leaving a visiting card, when if not at home, I might expect the satisfaction of a return visit by the devil in person. So he goes on to accordingly, having selected a promising locality, I went one evening towards dusk up into the deserted garret. Having closed the door and I believe opened the window, I proceeded to cut my finger and draw a circle on the floor with blood which flowed from the incision. I then placed myself in the center of the circle and either said or read the Lord's Prayer backwards. This I accomplished at first with some trepidation and in great fear towards the close of a scene. I then stood still in the center of that magic and superstitious circle, looking with intense anxiety in all directions, especially at the windows and at the chimney. Fortunately for myself, and for the reader also, if he is interested in this narrative, no owl or black cat or unlucky raven came into the room. Now, I think he succeeded, bro, and I'm gonna get to it here in a second. I think he succeeded, yeah, bro. I connected some dots. I'm like, wait a minute. I was reading, I was like, what? This is crazy, because we have the same narrative with Parsons. Parsons did the same thing. He said, as a 13-year-old boy, I think it was, or 12-year-old boy, he tried to summon the devil. And I don't recall if he said he succeeded or not, but we know that later on, he went on to go into the desert with L. Ron Hubbard and tried to invoke Babylon to summon a homunculus, and allegedly he succeeded.
Yeah.
With Marjorie Cameron. Okay, she was his red-haired scarlet woman, whatever, etc., which she actually went on with Kenneth Anger. She did some weird movies, The Invocation of My Demon Brother, and some other movies where she played the Kali, I believe it was. And that's interesting because the statue at the front of CERN, Shiva, the counterpart of that is Kali. And Marjorie Cameron, Parsons' second wife, played that in a movie with Kenneth Anger, which he recently died. He's the one that had Lucifer tattooed on his chest. So, and then she also went on to try and make an interracial moonchild. They were having orgies and they tried to, okay, so again, very interesting connection with this father of the computer trying to do some occult stuff.